Present.
Christine Green. Dan Hartley.
I'm here.
Jerry Liska.
Present.
Matt Hart.
I'm here. Happy holidays.
Nick Visley.
Present.
Norman Divers.
Present.
Walter Dixon.
Here. Thank you, Peyton. We do have a quorum, so we'll go ahead and get started. The first item, Shelley, can you, if you're sharing your screen, can you go ahead and move that up for me, please?
Yeah, I need, Peyton, I don't have the agenda pulled up.
So the first item of business, I've got that.
Thank you.
So the first order of business is the vision and mission. You who are just joining us, this is a statement. Meeting city. And so we always start by reading our vision statement, which is Belmont will be a vibrant, multi-generational community that incorporates small town charm and heritage with the entrepreneurial spirit. And so our mission statement, the city of Belmont provides visionary leadership, high quality city services to create a community of choice for our residents, visitors, and employees. And below that is a list of our core values, and I'll read just a couple. We will lead with honesty, vision, responsibility. We will demonstrate fairness and accountability to all residents and stakeholders of Belmont. So the first item on the agenda will be to set the agenda for this evening. Do I have a motion to do so?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, was it
Just
first?
if we say names.
Right.
Dan
Dan?
made the motion.
Mm-hmm.
Matt seconded the motion.
And Matt.
Great. Thank y'all.
Okay, so the motion by Dan and the second by Matt. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Like sign. The second item on the agenda will be the approval of the minutes from our November meeting. I hope everyone's had the opportunity to have read through those minutes. Are there any questions about the minutes as presented? If not, I would look for a motion to approve the minutes as presented to you.
Jerry Liska, motion to approve the minutes.
Jerry has motion. Is there a second?
Allison seconds.
Allison seconds. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Like sign. Minutes stand approved as presented. Next item is this is a continuation of our November meeting. For those that are just joining us, we met, as you can read through the minutes, we met and decided to table this to give the planning department opportunity to come back and present this again to us with a little addition and to restructure it. So Shelley,
Absolutely.
it's over to you. Shelley's going to present, and then I'd like for the board to be able to ask Shelley questions, and then after that, we will open it up for public input. And I'm going to let either Shelley or whoever's going to manage the public input to bring people and call them up to speak. So
Okay.
Shelley, it's your
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm just going to start out by recapping this text amendment. In November, we brought forth text amendment 2020.07. This was a request to amend Chapter 5 of the Land Development Code to encourage the apartment building form within the Wilkinson Boulevard corridor and prohibit that form in other areas of the city. Now, this was a directive by the City Council They indicated that they were of the opinion that the building form was more appropriate within the Wilkinson corridor because it will support the future light rail project. Now, they did clarify that apartment units would still be possible. However, it would have to be incorporated within a different building form, like a mixed-use building, where there's non-residential on the street level with apartments above. And we were directed to take it to council, get it back before council in December. So we went to you last month and we shared with you our approach. We evaluated all the various zoning districts, and we felt that there were a couple of districts we should not include in the amendment, and that was the institutional campus district, and that is larger properties such as Belmont Abbey College, where you would expect student housing to be in an apartment building form, and Sisters of Mercy is another example of ICD property where part of their general operations of their campus is to have multifamily housing. So the original amendment did not include the ICD district, nor did it apply to the highway corridor district, because that area is generally on both sides, the north and south side of Wilkinson Boulevard, and that is where the council felt it was appropriate for that building form. So last time I showed you this table, it was in your report, and it's in attachment A of this report, which is last month's report. We simply went through the various zoning districts that allowed the apartment building form, and where we were just going to strike through that particular building form, and where appropriate, add a shopfront building type of form that would allow non-residential on the street level with apartments units above. After sharing this information with you at the last planning board meeting, we also discussed an alternative proposal. Since we were still going to allow apartment units, we thought a better approach was not to remove the apartment building form, but to maintain that form, but require all multifamily development obtain approval of a conditional zoning petition. And after deliberation by the board, you directed us, you tabled this item, directed us to come back with an amendment that requires an approval of a conditional zoning petition for all multifamily projects. You also wanted the ability to have more public input, and asked us to advertise about tonight's meeting, and we did so by advertising for 3 consecutive weeks in the Gaston Gazette. With that advertisement, I did get some phone calls, some inquiries about the text amendment, and some were from property owners and some were from organizations. So what I'm sharing with you tonight is the draft text. We found that it would be a simple edit within the zones that allow the apartment building form. On the use tables, we simply were adding multifamily use may only be approved by the conditional zoning process. Again, we did not put that in the highway the highway corridor zone, the highway commercial zone, because we wanted to encourage it. All that means is they could come in by right within that district, and we did not include the ICD district in that requirement. This is simply a table of the specific section and page, which you have in your packet where that change was made. You know, staff is of the opinion that the proposed amendment supports the City Council's concerns about multifamily housing while it observes existing private property rights and is consistent with the city's adopted plans. And these findings are in your report, but I'll quickly read them in the record. We believe it establishes a review process that allows council discretion, planning and zoning board review, and public engagement on proposed multifamily developments throughout the city. It does not apply to multifamily developments proposed within the Wilkinson Corridor, Belmont Abbey College, Sisters of Mercy campus, where the apartment building form use is encouraged and or expected. The conditional zoning process requires a robust public engagement component, and it will permit owners of properties located within existing zoning districts, which allow the apartment building form to develop as such. However, the process is proposed to be changed. So there's still the opportunity, only the process is changed. And the proposed approval process, which is a conditional zoning, will apply to all proposed multifamily developments outside the HC and ICD zone in all building forms. So we have seen a new trend that is occurring in actually the Charlotte area, and we believe it's starting to come into Gaston County, where they are building townhomes, and instead of individually owned, they are designed in a community form, just similar to a multifamily development or an apartment complex. All the townhomes are leased, but the same concept of a multifamily development. So again, this amendment will allow discretion in all forms of multifamily development. We believe that it is in compliance with the various goals of the adopted comprehensive land use plans and small area plans, because it still promotes a choice in housing and the ability for the city to review and approve on a case-by-case basis. This process itself will also support other goals of the comprehensive land use plan, because it gives us an opportunity to evaluate community character, infrastructure, mobility, and adjacent uses as well when considering a project. So with that, I'm going to ask that you receive this report and the revised amendment. The action tonight is to consider recommendation. If you think it needs more work, you could ask for us to work on it more, or approve as drafted, approve with any modifications that come out of deliberations, or recommend disapproval of the proposed text amendment to the City Council. So that completes just a brief report on the amendment.
I have a question, Shelley. This is Matt Hart.
Yes, Matt. Mm-hmm.
The shop front, can you expand on that a little bit, if that changed from the last meeting, or explain more about what shop front is and how that applies in the highway corridor or any other development?
Yeah, it would not apply really in the highway corridor. So a shop front type building, or building form is similar to what you see in the downtown area. where they're at least a story and a half. It's mainly commercial or non-residential, but it can have apartments above. It's not an apartment building form, or it's not what we call a workplace, similar to like the Chronicle, where it still may have commercial, but it's this huge, massive building. So it's just a particular type of building form. We did not modify it based with this restructuring that you had directed us to do. We did not touch where the shopfront building form is allowed. It's still allowed. You can still have multifamily units above the commercial. So something like that's proposed in the downtown. In fact, in Main Street, we have a couple of buildings that have a few apartments above non-residential. It can continue to do so. Again, it doesn't matter what the building form is or where it is, except for the highway corridor and the ICD. It could be a shop front building proposing units, and it would still go through a conditional zoning.
Okay,
I
thank you.
hope I answered your question.
Yeah.
Okay. I do know, I do want to make sure that we did receive 2 letters of comments that I forwarded via email to the board this evening. I just wanted to make sure you all received them. I was having a little difficulty with my technology, but we do have a couple of people here that I believe would like to deliver some public comment to the board if the board is ready to receive it.
Shelley, does anybody on the board have any other questions, Shelley, before we open it up to comment? We'll come back and discuss it later on, but if you got any comments to her now or questions, if not, that can wait till later. Shelley, go ahead and
Okay, so let me see here. So
Shelley, I got just a question before we get into that session. Is there a time limit on public comment by individual?
I'd have to pop open the bylaws, but typically public comment is limited to 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So Michelle Manns, I always believe in ladies first. So Michelle Manns is here. She sent in a comment letter from the Apartment Association. So I will turn it over to her to share her thoughts with the board.
Thank you, Shelley, and good evening, members of the board. Again, my name is Michelle Manns, and I am Director of Strategic Initiatives and Legislative Affairs for the Greater Charlotte Apartment Association. It's also known as the GCAA. The GCAA is a trade association for the multifamily rental housing industry. And our members, they are property management firms, developers, owners, and suppliers of goods and services to the apartment industry across an 11-county footprint that includes Gaston County. We are also joined by REBIC, the Real Estate and Building Industry Coalition, in which we are members. You also received a letter from them as well, as we really have mutual concerns about the proposal. And we want to say that while we understand the intent of the action is to redirect density towards a basically currently unfunded potential mass transit project, we believe this action to be somewhat short-sighted, limiting, and unreasonable without a more definitive transit and corridor plan in place. Multifamily development, we believe, should really be embraced wherever the market drives it. Not sure if everyone agrees with that, but also this proposal would restrict property rights, we think, and that really greatly concerns our industry and our membership. Another big area that we feel that would be impacted is housing affordability. Efforts to eliminate the apartment building form in most of the City of Belmont's land development code really would work against housing affordability. It would restrict those opportunities for residents of the Belmont community, as the most expensive land typically is around those types of corridors, such as transit stations and the rail stations. we really cannot afford to hinder access to housing affordability, especially in these critical times. Housing affordability should be wherever those development opportunities appropriately present themselves in Belmont. If you eliminate the apartment building form in most zoning districts and encourage it specifically in those transit areas, again, you would be encouraging the development of the most expensive multifamily product, and those who need transit the most would not be able to afford to live near it. That would be your working residents of the community, like your teachers, your first responders, graduate students, and the like. They would really need a less expensive option and would be priced out of Belmont. So those are basically my comments. We really appreciate your consideration to allow these future developments to be approved through the conditional zoning process, and we look forward to engaging further with you on any future changes on the land development code. So thank you again for the opportunity to speak this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Mans. Does anyone have any questions for her?
I do. This is Walter. Michelle, are you against what they proposed here with the conditional use? Because my understanding, the way I read it, we haven't limited multifamily anywhere. We've just ensured that in each one of these districts that it would be conditional zoning.
Well, our preference is that it would not have to go through the conditional zoning process. It should just be under the normal zoning regulation. The other concern for us is that it appears that it's encouraging it in the transit area that would, in our mind, create a housing affordability issue because it would drive up the cost of development in those areas. If this is something that you're going to pass anyway, we'll take the conditional use. To be quite honest, I mean, we would prefer that you not insert that caveat in there, but we just want to be on record to say that we would prefer you not do that. But if you do, we'll take that.
Understood. Thank you.
Hey, Shelley, this is Nick. I was wondering if you can touch base real quickly on the small area plans and what districts are we currently removing that would be allowed by right that are no longer going to be available for multifamily?
Or by right?
Yeah, I'm assuming my thought was that multifamily was almost always going to be conditional anyway. So what restrictions are we putting on it now?
Yeah, no. So all the zones currently that allow the apartment building form, if your buildings are under a certain size, 30,000 square feet or less, and you can meet all the other requirements. I mean, you can process, say, an apartment building form by right. Currently, I don't believe there's any district other than, I think our South Point overlay where we have our village centers. We said that's the only district that if you propose in a village center out on the peninsula, you propose any apartments, you would have to do conditional. Otherwise, there is the opportunity to do it by right. This amendment, so the original proposal proposed to remove the apartment building form and only allow it in the highway commercial corridor. For the discussion, we do not, the discussion was not to eliminate the apartment form. It was to require to do a conditional zoning petition, conditional process. That way there's good public engagement. We have the ability for evaluation by the planning board and city council discretion on its approval to ensure that it fits with community character, infrastructure, and so forth. So yeah, most districts allow it by right. In most cases, however, where there are proposed apartment building form, I'm going to use, there's two different ones. The Palisades, which is next to the Aldi's on Wilkinson, that was a administrative by right apartment complex. It met every requirement. There was no public engagement, input. It just met the ordinance and it was built. One that went, well, two that have gone through conditional. We had the Morris, which is still, their construction plans are under review, but it was approved as a conditional zoning. And one that is built, I will use the Riverside Flats. It was part of the Aberfold development, which was a mix of townhomes and apartment buildings. And we were very happy that went conditional. We were able to get some additional transportation improvements, architectural features, and so forth going through that process. It was a very, many of you were involved in that conditional zoning. You know, it was a pretty tough case, but I think the project has come out very nice. Did I answer your questions? Okay, Nick?
Yeah, I think for the most part. I do share some of the concerns, though, that we're trying to drive development to a corridor that's going to be under the I-85 widening project, as well as the light rail, which both projects are honestly kind of up in the air the way NCDOT is currently funding projects. So I would just put that on record that I share that concern as well.
Oh, and I'm sorry, you asked about small area plans. And just real quick, most of the small area plans, the Center City plan, the Montcross area plan, both currently allow multifamily housing with different building forms and so forth. The prior amendment would have impacted those, would have been inconsistent with the adopted small area plans. However, as proposed, we're still keeping the form and still the ability to do multifamily development, just the process has changed. Okay.
Do we have any other public comment that we're aware of?
Let me see if Bill Monroe is on the line and just see if we have the ability to hear him. I see Bill talking on the phone, but I can't hear him.
He gave a thumbs up.
Okay. Okay. And Mr. Monroe is representative of the Southern Benedictine Society. All the property that's owned by Belmont Abbey, which they have the Montcross small area plan. So I had spoken with him and we did talk briefly, and give me a thumbs up or not, but I believe the end result is you were okay with the conditional zoning approach. No, maybe not. And unfortunately, we are not able to hear him. If you excuse me for 1 second, I'm going to try to pop it.
Can you type in the chat what he's would like to say, or?
Let's see. Mr. Monroe, can you see the chat box? You can chat to everybody.
Bill, this is Alec Robinson. You want me to call you on your cell phone?
I, 'cause 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 I Yeah, I had sent Bill a chat earlier. I'm not sure.
His mic is green.
Right. I'm not sure he's hearing us either right now.
So,
You want to try to call him?
Shelley, while we're waiting, did you get a letter from him or any correspondence similar to?
Oh, wait, I just heard something. Was that
Hey,
Bill?
Bill, I'm gonna try to put you on speakerphone.
I can't figure out how to get connected.
Bill, I've got you on speaker.
Can anybody hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Now I can't hear you. But anyway, I'll give you my 3 minutes real quick. Yeah, I think we're supportive of the process. Obviously, we benefit as a Southern Benedictine Society with the Wilkinson Corridor, where a station will end on our property if everything is funded as it stands today. We do envision a higher density on that property, but obviously that is a few years off. The only question I would ask the board to consider is whether our BCD property, which is north of Interstate 85, could carry multifamily at a higher percentage than the 0 to 30%. I don't really see how any development north of 85 would hinder anything you're trying to do. Of particular interest for us is a continuing care retirement community near the hospital, which is scheduled to start land clearing the 1st of January. So I was preparing an RFP, 2 different groups to consider locating there. Obviously, that would have a multifamily component as a part of a continuing care retirement community. So would like to know if there's any sentiment to allow multifamily in that area, or we're fine with coming before you in the future with a conditional use plan. Just looking for your thoughts on that.
Hi, Bill, can you hear me? This is Shelley.
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm going to share is, so if this passes and you were proposing, which was consistent with your future plans for that area, if you're proposing this continued care area, it would need to come through as a conditional zoning anyway. And we would probably, depending on the mix of uses and the building type, change your zoning so you could go above that 30% if need be.
Yeah, and I have no idea that we would ever need that.
Right.
We've got probably 400 acres north of I-85
Okay.
still in timber.
Okay. But again, if you go through a conditional zoning, if you're asking, it sounds like you're wanting to go above 30%. Is that?
Yeah, we don't know whether we need to or not.
Right.
We probably just have to come back for rezoning years down the road if we ever went over 30%.
Yeah, well, we could definitely do that and then look at other ways to achieve your ultimate master plan as uses change in the, but this text amendment, as presented, it does affect the BCD only in that it's proposing to require conditional zoning for multifamily development. It doesn't affect any of your current rights or your percentage mix of uses in that area.
So we're fine with your amendment as presented tonight.
Okay.
I hate that I was not on at the last meeting to hear all the discussion, but as I sit here and hear the comments already and what Shelley's presented, I don't hear any undue burden for implementing multifamily with a process that is in place for this board, and we're really proud of our work in Belmont to be able to see projects through and then to recommend to council. That doesn't cost money. It may cost time. It may cost. Let me step back. It may cost dollars, but it doesn't cost an exorbitant amount of dollars that would impact a project's development. I think what Shelley and her team has done is compromised, I guess is a word, to ensure that development is funneled to an area of town where we want development without being too pushy. To be sort of blunt about it, it doesn't prohibit development in other areas. It may provide that the process needs to be worked through this board and council, but that's what we're here for. So those are my comments. I would like to move forward if there's no other discussion.
Is there any other comments from the public that we're aware of? Kelly? You're on mute.
I'm sorry. I'm looking through and I do not see anyone else. If anyone else is on the line that I just don't see as a participant, please unmute yourself and let us know if you'd like to speak. I believe the two guests that are on the line have spoken.
And we thank you for your input.
Yes, sir.
Matt, you did miss.
Yes, sir, Bill.
You know, basically last time it was trying to restrict and change that. I think what Shelley, they took back what the planning board had suggested they do, and they were already headed in that direction anyway, of trying to make it conditional zoning, which, you know, as you stated, it's a win-win for everybody. There may be a little bit more work for the planning board and the planning staff and for the developer, but I think it's a win-win. And for the people of Belmont, I think, you know, you get a product that everybody's proud of and everybody has an input into it, instead of just riding by and there you go, something's going up that you had no notice of. So is there any other discussion? We're going to continue with discussion on this project. Matt is ready to move forward. Does anybody else have any
Mr. Chairman,
items that they would like to add at this time?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, is that Dan?
this is Alec.
Yes, sir.
Shelley we got a text from Bob Clay saying he's unable to join the meeting. He got an invitation but cannot join.
Okay, is Seth on the line? Well, he can, why don't we have him call you? Can you ask Bob Clay just to call you?
Just call him right quick, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if he'll pick up.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And Matt, Bob's the one that spoke last month.
That's correct, he did.
Opposition to what was presented initially.
Correct, yes.
Has there been any follow-up off the record with them between then and now? Sorry.
Yes, we sent them since they were involved, we sent them the link to the planning board packet, so they were aware of what was being presented here tonight. And the link to tonight's meeting, unfortunately, he hasn't been able to get in, but let's see if we can get something similar to what we did with Mr. Monroe.
This
Yes.
is Alec. I have Bob Clay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Bob. Okay, Bob.
Good evening, and sorry, I'm not sure why I couldn't get in because I received the invite, but I would say that we are very supportive of the language amending to go to a conditional district on the ability to have the apartment building form in a mixed-use development. So thank you.
He still has like 2.5 minutes.
Don't tell him that. He'll keep talking, Bob, right? See that. Thank you, Bob. We appreciate your comments. So that should be all of the public comments at this time. So I'd like the board to continue discussion. Does anybody have any other items they would like to add before we entertain a motion?
Yeah, I do. Hold up. Shelley, go back.
Which?
Hold up. Wait. Stop. The part about observes private property rights.
Yes.
Okay. My issue is, and I think we talked about this last time, was that as soon as this text amendment is approved by City Council, it goes into effect.
That's correct.
I think, well, what I would propose is that we have a 6-month, I don't know how to say it, but that this doesn't.
Effective date, 6 months.
June 1st. That it happens on June 1st, because as soon as you make the change, anybody's existing property rights have now gone away. Those who could do it by right have got 6 months if they need to. If they're in the process of working a plan or a proposal together, it gives them time to do it.
Okay, well, I'll share this. I hear what you're saying, and the council, that could be a suggestion by this board if you wanted to change the effective date. So when we do new ordinances, you're correct. Once they're adopted, they're effective. But if someone has something in the pipeline with us, such as a sketch plan, something already in, they are completely locked into the prior ordinance. So it doesn't affect them whatsoever. Now, the reason I put property rights, let me just explain that. So the way we looked at it was, initially we were going to take away the ability for property owners in particular zones. We were going to prohibit something that they are allowed today, which is to do a development with the apartment building form. We were going to take that away where it would not be a possibility, period. This amended text, we kept the building form, so they're not losing the right of trying to do an apartment building form, but we did propose to modify the process. So that is what's changed. They still have full rights of trying to develop a apartment building form. It's just the process is different.
Yeah, let me just ask Dan a question to that.
Sure.
You know, I guess if we were to say the Palisades on Wilkinson, if they were going to submit their plans for the Palisades on January 1 of next year, after this text amendment passes, you know, say in December, that it doesn't change it enough to where that project would not pass. It only changes the fact that they now have to go through a conditional zoning process through this board, where before they just built the thing. I mean, and they did it right and they followed the rule by right, but this, I would agree with you if we were changing the ordinance such that it would limit someone from doing multifamily housing on a particular piece of property because of square footage, because of heights, because of this, that, and the other. But all we're doing is inputting a process that allows us to understand what's happening. I mean, that's not an undue burden, I don't think, but I'm willing to chat about it.
Well, if you're in the middle of a planning of a piece of property, there's a lot of behind the scenes work that's done before you even get to a sketch plan. If I'm in the middle of doing that right now, I've got the next 2 weeks or less to get a sketch plan in front of the Belmont plan. So and I got to do that over a holiday. All we're asking is, and it doesn't change what's going to happen in the future. It only delays the future 6 months. And my question is, why couldn't we delay? Why couldn't we have an effective date that's at a later time?
Yeah, and I certainly like the idea. I mean, when we deal with building codes, they don't change codes overnight, and it's, there's a grace period. I would support that. Just kind of want to talk about it, but I would support that. Is 6 months long enough? Is it short enough? That's debatable, I guess, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, Dan, I would support that too, by the way.
Well, all I'm asking is, in some cases it's a year, maybe a year's too long. I'm trying to get something that the city council will accept. I'm trying to compromise without talking to anybody on council, just to figure out what's fair to everybody. If we're ready to make a proposal or amendment or a motion, my motion would be to set the effective date as June 1st, 2021.
Okay.
Shelley, is there precedence for that?
Well, no, you mean as far as establishing an effective date and as it relates to
grace period?
People could, argue that issue on any time we change the code, sometimes allowing a grace period, if that gets out, does that mean we're going to be flooded by multifamily developments trying to come in for, because usually before we even see a sketch plan, we have had meetings with developers and so forth. They come in even throwing out an idea to us in a certain area and so forth. So, it's ultimately up to the council, your recommendation. This is the first time that I've seen in Belmont where we've had an effective date on a text amendment. Clearly, I hear the proposal. I personally think a year is a long time. 6 months to June 1st. Yeah, that's reasonable.
But Shelley, I didn't hear any pushback from Bob Clay or
No.
Michelle. I mean, she'd rather not be there, but in the letter.
Right. Well,
But in Dan's defense, I mean, they aren't submitting plans right now, and I could be trying to submit a plan in the next couple of weeks and be pushing for that. So yeah, I mean,
right.
I hear what Dan's saying.
What do y'all have?
I hear what he's saying as well, and 6 months. Picking a time is difficult.
Chairman, if I could ask a quick question, it would help me a great deal in this whole discussion about providing an extended or an effective date. Can you, Shelley, would you please give me a brief lesson on what happens currently with a plan when you talk about Palisades? They submit a plan, they get approval, they go out and build it, versus if they had to go through a conditional use process. As I would imagine, conditional use gives the board and gives staff an opportunity to evaluate infrastructure support for a project, transportation needs, things like that. So could you please tell me what the conditional use process does, short of adding meetings and getting approvals, of course? What does it do differently from what they have to enjoy today? Because I do not support an effective date at all.
Okay.
Either we do it or we don't.
Okay. So when you're doing the difference between conditional zoning, besides the process, the meetings and such, and by right is typically by right, you get minimums they meet the minimum requirement for open space, architecture, tree save. I mean, they still have to meet certain things. They still have to abide by the TIA policy, the transportation policy. So even if it's by right, they have to meet all the various sections of the ordinance, but they meet minimums. Now, typically with a conditional zoning, it gives us more flexibility, and we typically end up with a better project based on, some of it is because it's going to the public, decision has to be made, and there's just a more willingness by the development team to work with staff and the boards to address some of the public's concerns that come out from neighboring property owners and so forth, where the ordinance may say you only need a 25-foot buffer, but by the time it gets all the way through council, it's been negotiated for a 60-foot wide buffer of certain type and so forth. So the conditional zoning process, because of all the input and the process itself, we end up with a project that typically, I'll say 99% of the time, exceeds most of the minimum standards we have in the ordinance. They listen to us more about the architecture, and we're not getting minimum, we're getting more.
Understood.
So,
that's how I recall it, and I don't understand how we could not, given the impacts that a multifamily apartment complex type project can bring onto the infrastructure. I don't know how we could not require a developer to interact with the public, get their opportunity, give them an opportunity to speak into a project of that size, of that magnitude, and be able to have a more comprehensive plan that meets all of the stakeholders' needs and the requirements to build that project in that area. So I completely disagree with the fact of putting in an effective date. So that's all I got to say.
I have a clarifying question to you, Shelley, on making a motion. Can you explain again? We need to have two motions this evening.
Yeah, so you can make, you motion to make a recommendation to the city council. You can approve as drafted, approve with any proposed modifications, and this would be in the form of a motion, and then describe what the modifications are. Then when there's a motion on the floor, you can talk about it more and discuss it more if you need be, then call for a vote. Then there would need to be there needs to be a second motion where you're finding the proposed, if it's in the positive, the recommendation, you would need to make a finding that it is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan and other adopted plans. And I can go back to the slide that outlines that finding.
So,
Shelley, before we vote or put a motion out there, I agree with what you put out there. I think this is a good plan, the conditional zoning. I take the position that Norman does. I think we pass it and it goes on. I think the conditional zoning is an appropriate way to do this. And the conditional zonings I've seen have been a win-win. Normally somebody's got something that they've got a problem with, and the city gets a little bit and they get something, and vice versa. And so I'm in favor of what you want to do. I just don't want to put a 6-month or a year moratorium on it. So I don't know how we look at motions and pick a date, put it up or down. But
yeah, if I heard this correctly, I think Dan did make a motion. Dan, can you clarify that?
Yeah, I made a motion.
Can I second that?
Okay, so
hold on a second, because the motion was just about a date, and we haven't even approve the plan as presented. So it seems out
This is
of
for the
order.
amendment, though.
What's that?
This is a motion for the amendment, right?
So Dan, will you repeat your motion so we can clarify what it was?
Okay.
Thank you.
The motion is to create an effective date for the text amendment to take effect to be June 1st, 2021.
So you support an amended text amendment? Yes, with an effective date of June 1st, 2021.
Correct.
Okay. So that was his motion.
Shelley, this is Allison. Do you know of any properties that this would impact, whether you have the 6 months or not? Are there any?
No, not that I'm aware of, because again, this is, if this doesn't become effective till June 1st, what that is saying is if there are other people want to develop multifamily, if they're working on something, they need to get it in before June 1st, if they want to try to do it by right. Otherwise, it has to go conditional zoning. Now, does it mean that somebody out there wanting to do multifamily and wanting to do conditional zoning couldn't do it? They can definitely request to go ahead and do it conditional. It just would not be mandated till June 1st. Are there people out there planning on doing that? I really, I know of a couple of proposed multifamily projects where people are thinking about them. They don't have official sketch plans in, but we were encouraging they go conditional anyway. So we as staff, we always support someone doing it conditionally, just because, again, we like the public engagement to try to ensure it's fitting in the community character of the area it's proposed in and so forth. But what this would mean is somebody could propose a by right multifamily without going through a conditional zoning if it's applied for prior to.
And is the Palisades the only one you know of that's ever done it by right?
I'd have to refer to Alec Robinson on that, senior planner. There are other apartment complexes in the city, but it was before my time here, so.
Nothing recent.
Nothing recent, no. We've been successful in working with the developers in a conditional zoning capacity on those other projects.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to, I guess I'm getting out my Robert's rules a little bit here. If the motion that Dan made changes what was presented, and there are people who do not want that moratorium or that grace period to be part of the plan, they will likely vote no. And I'm not going to say votes or not, but if it doesn't, if you make an amendment that's attached to this like that and it doesn't pass, then it doesn't pass. It's not you can't go back and say, oh, but can we try to pass it?
You can. So what you're doing is he's made a motion that he supports the text amendment with the modification of including an effective date as of June 1, 2021. Okay. Now, that's the motion. You're voting on his particular motion. So if it fails, then someone else needs to make a motion
to adopt.
Without somebody would make a motion. They could say, well, let's try 3 months, or let's just try as presented.
So Dan's motion is only to change the amendment, only to change the recommendation, not to vote on the recommendation.
No, he has made a motion. Okay. From what I heard him say, he's supporting the amendment with the modification that it include, and correct me, Dan, if I'm adding too many words, but that includes a effective date starting June 1, 2021. So he supports it, but he's asking that it have an effective date of June 1st, 2021.
So all we're voting on is a date, not the actual
I think we're
report.
voting on the motion to approve what's been presented with an effective date of June.
That's correct.
21.
Okay.
Yes, and if it fails, that's okay. That just means that particular motion failed, and someone else can make a new motion to see if it would pass or if that fails.
Let's see what happens. There's a motion on the floor.
Does that make sense, Matt?
Yes.
Are you listening?
I don't think, okay, it's fine.
Is there a second to Dan's motion?
Yeah, I'll second. Nick.
Nick second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I would just like to add to that if we approve without any
All
effective
in
date.
favor say aye.
Hey, real quick, Walter.
Wait a minute. Let's further discussion then.
Yeah, I just want to remind everybody that if we have no effective date at all, council's set to approve on January 4th, meaning that exactly Dan's point, it would go over the holiday, and if anyone has anything that's currently in process that we don't know about, it'll get approved before they even have a chance to respond over the holidays.
Ken, can I ask another quick question, please? And this may be completely out of the proper etiquette here for the board, but we have registered professionals that are involved in land development work. Is there any opportunities for there to be a benefit by voting this way for your projects? By giving you a 6-month moratorium?
I know existing projects that are
Yeah,
either under construction or in plan.
Okay, thank you.
And just for a point of clarification, the motion includes an effective date. It doesn't involve any kind of moratorium. So I'm just saying that because in the world of planning, moratorium means something different.
It's a grace period.
Thank you, Shelley.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion before we vote?
I just wanted to say I'm for the text amendment, but I'm kind of in the same camp of, if we send the recommendation that it be approved without any type of grace period, just because if our issue is wanting to make sure that this goes through the conditional zoning process and we allow, no matter what amount of time we allow, it's going to impact somebody. But if we're allowing 6 months, there may be kind of a race for people to subvert the process we want to implement, do it by right. And like Matt said, to me, and I'm kind of the outsider, I'm the attorney that doesn't know all the real estate stuff, but to me, it doesn't seem like a big burden to have to go through the conditional zoning. If they've got a good project and it's going to benefit them and the community, it's going to get passed. So I just think if we pass it, it should become effective once it's passed.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. If we were restricting somebody from doing something they once could do, I would feel different of giving them a time frame. I'm supportive of what we're proposing, just not today. So, anybody else discussion before we vote? We'll see where this goes, and if not, someone could.
And Mr. Chairman, do we want to do the vote in the form of a roll call?
Yes, ma'am.
Peyton so if you're ready to call the vote, I can have Peyton do the roll call.
I think we're ready.
Okay.
Allison Cottingham.
I'm against the motion.
Dan.
For?
Jerry,
Against the motion?
Matt,
Nay.
Nick,
For.
Norman,
Nay.
Walter,
No.
I'm showing a 5-2.
You're on mute, Shelley.
My apologies. So the resulting vote is the motion failed 5-2. So the floor is open for further discussion or a new motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve as drafted.
And who is this, Norman?
Norman.
Thank you.
Matt will second.
Norman has made the motion to approve as presented, and Matt Hart has second. Is there any further discussion?
I guess it's, the fact that we had that motion from Dan, whether council reads the minutes or not, they will at least see that was on the table. So maybe they have an opportunity to consider it as well. But I'm ready to call the question.
Okay. The question's on the table. There's a motion and there's a second, and hopefully that Peyton will have that in the minutes, that they'll be able to see the healthy discussion we had. So,
And Mr. Chairman, I'll just let the board know that I will
want to do a call again, Shelley?
Oh, yes, we will. I just wanted to let the board know that I will ensure that the staff report outlines this discussion about the initial motion for a delay in effective date.
Thank you. It was good, healthy discussion.
Yes.
All right, Peyton.
Allison,
4.
Dan,
Oh, did we close discussion on the last motion?
We did.
Okay.
I mean, due to technical difficulties, if you want, I have a hard time hearing folks too. So
I only had one clarification that I wanted to make on the motion that's been put out there, and it's to Shelley. Shelley, if the apartment is a conditional use, are you going to require that they have a shop on the first level? Is that
Okay, well, it depends on the zone. I mean, some of our zones that are out there actually, and if it's on a collector's street, like I'll use the downtown district, requires street level non-residential, so some kind of commercial with apartments above. But that doesn't mean, especially conditional zoning, they can't propose an apartment building or all multifamily.
Meaning if the Palisades came through, we wouldn't require them to have shop front on the first level.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, again,
we're not requiring anything.
Right. So what would happen is if it goes conditional zoning, it's a matter of being in compliance with the either small area plan or the comprehensive land use plan. So there are some areas, for example, in the downtown area where the zoning, the small area plan envisions non-residential on the first floor and multifamily, and that's if it's right at the street. If there are buildings behind it, they could be all multifamily. if it's in other zones like the BCD and they're proposing multifamily, they don't need to have non-residential on the street level. So that's a tough question to answer, Dan, just because there's a lot of the location plays a role, the zoning plays a role, and any small area plan plays a role in compliance.
All right, Peyton, I hate, would you start this all over for us and start the roll call again so we're clear?
Yes, I can do that. Okay. Allison.
4.
Dan.
4.
Jerry.
4.
Matt.
Aye.
Nick.
Aye.
Norman.
Aye.
Walter.
Aye. So it appears it has been approved unanimously. Is that correct, Peyton?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Just so everybody
the next
knows,
item would
Christine
be
Green
the
did arrive.
compliance statement. Shelley, if you've got that pulled up.
Yes, I do.
Sounds like Christine came on.
Oh.
Yeah, just so y'all know, I've been here.
Oh, hey, Christine. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So did we want to, did we call her name in that last roll?
We didn't.
We did not.
No, that's okay.
Yeah. Let's call, Peyton, would you just call Christine's name and let her vote?
Yes. Christine.
4.
Sorry about that. I didn't realize you had joined the meeting.
That's all right.
I tell you, this technology stuff's nice, but it sure certainly makes it tough to do our business, doesn't it?
I couldn't get my link to work, so I had to call in.
Okay. There have been several folks with that issue tonight. The technology is, when it works, it's great. So this is a compliance with the conditional, with the comprehensive land use plan. So I would look for a motion.
I'll make a motion, Chairman. Norman.
That the amendment is
Matt?
consistent.
No, this is Norman. I make the motion that the amendment is in agreement with the plan.
Basic, are we stating what Shelley has up on the screen here, proposed amendments consistent with the various goals and et cetera?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Norman has a motion. Is there a second?
Second. Matt.
Matt.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on the compliance statement? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 Sign. That also is approved unanimously as well. The next thing on the agenda, Shelley, appears to be our meeting dates for 2021. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, it should have, Peyton, was it in the packet, the dates?
Yes, it is. I can share it if you need me to.
Yes, if you would, I'll stop sharing. Okay. So what we're looking for, Mr. Chairman, is a motion to approve the official schedule for the 2021 calendar year. We will distribute this once it's approved. It gets posted on our website as well.
So what is presented is a meeting date for 2021 at 6:30 p.m. in the New City Works building. Is there a motion to adopt the meeting schedule for 2021?
This is Allison. I'll make a motion that we approve the schedule as shown.
Dan, second.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Jerry.
There's a second by Jerry. Any discussion? The meeting dates, 6:30 City Works Building for 2021. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. So they stand approved. Shelley, any other new business for us?
I'm sorry. So the only thing I want to share, and I'm sorry I was having trouble with my computer, but staff will, last week, I believe, or the week before, we sent out a weekly report to the planning board. I hope you all received it. The intent of that is to, we do that every other week, and we send it to the city manager, who I believe distributes it to the city council, and we want to make sure, get better about making sure we get it to the planning board. So if you were stopped and asked about developments and the status of them, you should be able to refer to the weekly report about new projects that come in and so forth, or where some, how many permits we have pushed out. Every other week we do reports on the permitting, so you know what's under construction, what we have just done as zoning compliance. For example, the hotel, a lot of us worked on the hotel project, Homes to Suite, and my understanding is they will be ready. They're getting ready for their punch list to open, get their final inspection soon, and so forth. So we'll try to do a better job on communication on our development projects. And also, if you haven't been to the planning department's website, you'll see current projects listed, and then once they're approved, they get shifted down to approved projects. But sometimes in between getting those reports, the sketch plan may come in, and or someone asks you about it. If it's on the weekly report, it should be on a web page, on our web page. So we'll send some links out. The weekly reports, when it lists the projects, a lot of times it will be hyperlinked to the actual web page, project page. So just wanted to share that with you, and wish you all a happy holiday, actually.
You too. Thank you, Shelley. And she's right. There's a lot of good information out there on the website. And so as Shelley said, I encourage you to go look at it, because you kind of hate to get blindsided by somebody asks you about what's going on, and it's out there for us to go look at, and we're not aware of it. So good work by the planning department. I appreciate what y'all have done with this text amendment and being able to get this turned around in the 30 days as requested. And I hope everyone has a great holiday, and thank you for your time. Does anyone have anything else before we adjourn? If not, hopefully we can get together in 2021, right, at the new City Work Building.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. We stand adjourned. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.